Welcome to the Faculty of Medicine, University of Kelaniya. We will be taking you on a virtual tour of the faculty grounds. I am Professor Anuruddha Edirisinghe from the Department of Forensic Medicine, and to my left is Ms. Ruchini Jayatillaka, and to my right is Mr. Chanuka Disanayaka, who are fourth-year medical students.
With your first steps into our faculty, you commence your lifelong commitment to the noble art and science of medicine. Under the new normal, COVID precautions are adhered to with hand washing and a temperature check.
Now we are approaching the administration block of faculty, graced by the statue of Professor Carlo Fonseca, beloved founding dean of our faculty.
This is the main administration block. To your right is the office of the dean, where the dean, the senior assistant registrar, and the administration staff is available. To your left is the faculty boardroom and the reception.
Now we are moving on to where we will spend the first 2 years of your faculty life. We are going through the main corridor, one of the most scenic areas of our faculty, leading to the library basement.
This is the main lawn of our faculty, which also happens to be the gathering point in case of an emergency. Once you cross the car park, you come to your home for the next 2 years, the preclinical building.
Now we are in the right wing of the preclinical building, which houses the Department of Anatomy, Physiology, and Biochemistry.
Let's go through the laboratories, where you will attend the practical classes. Now we are at the second floor, at the biochemistry laboratory.
Now I'm in the physiology lab. Also on the first floor is the audiometry room.
I'm now at the Anatomy Museum on the ground floor, which also houses the Anatomy Dissection Hall and the virtual laboratory.
One of the first courses you will follow is the English course, and this is the English language unit.
This is the study area for self-studies. And these are the tute rooms where tutorials are held on a regular basis. Lastly, you see the preclinical auditorium, where your first year lectures will be held.
Now we are at the main medical library of the University of Kelaniya. This is our well-stocked library where you can find any medical book that you will need during your course. The book section and the journal section you can access and borrow at any time.
This is our computer center, where you can freely access faculty Wi-Fi and obtain technical advice. This is the Skill Lab, a special facility in our faculty where practical skills are taught prior to meeting patients. And this is the examination hall where your continuous assessment and unit exams will be held.
On the ground floor, we have the main auditorium, where your second year lectures will be held. The library basement is where we often hang out, with tute rooms for discussions and tutorials.
The pathological, microbiological, hematological, and biochemical investigations of the hospital professorial unit are carried out in the laboratories located here.
The Pathology Museum and the Parasitological and Microbiological laboratories, where you will be attending your practical sessions, are located here.
We are now at the main examination hall. This space is also used as a stage for cultural events.
We are now passing the exam unit. This is the Cultural Center, home to cultural and musical gatherings for interested students.
We have now reached the canteen building. On the top floor, the public health department, and in the first floor, medical education department, audiovisual unit, and the senior common rooms are located.
We are now inside the faculty canteen, where a varied choice of meals are available at subsidiary prices.
Our faculty boasts its very own amphitheatre, where you will get to showcase your talents. Taking center stage is the Sisu Viru statue.
You see here the newly built clinical building, home to the students' new common room, and the always helpful photocopy center, and the finance section where the trophies.
This multipurpose building houses several clinical departments. On the third floor, Department of Pharmacology, Medicine, Pediatrics and Psychiatry, whereas in second floor, the Department of Surgery, Gyn and Obs, as well as Forensic Medicine. And in the first floor, you can see the lecture and the tute rooms, as well as the Forensic Medicine Museum. And then the ground floor, the finance branch, is just to my right.
We are proud to lay claim to the title of the first state green university in Sri Lanka, evidence of which speaks for itself.
After the public car park, you find the Molecular Medicine Unit, the only one of its kind in a state university in Sri Lanka currently. We are passing the Department of Disability Studies, hub of the speech and hearing science students. This is the Family Medicine Unit, where clinical training is done and the doctors are always willing to attend to minor ailments of students.
We have reached the hostel premises, where there is a conveniently placed hostel canteen. Our hostel facilities are of such extent that we are able to accommodate almost all students, with the majority getting purpose-built hostels. Our extended faculty includes the North Colombo Teaching Hospital, where almost all our clinical experience is gained, and Ayati Centre, the first disability centre in Sri Lanka, where speech and hearing sciences students attend their clinical sessions. This concludes the virtual tour of our faculty. Your home for the next 5 years. Thank you for coming along.
Good evening, dear ladies and gentlemen. I'm Netmi Kiridana, a medical student studying at the Faculty of Medicine, University of Kelaniya. Welcome to the webinar on energy conservation, opportunities and challenges, organized by the Green Society of the Faculty of Medicine, University of Kelaniya. It is with a sense of pride I say that the University of Kelaniya is the first state university of Sri Lanka to adopt an environment policy. We have recognized that our energy choices today would determine the well-being of the humankind tomorrow, and the effort we take together is to build a healthier community and thereby a sustainable society. Currently, fossil fuel supplies 78% of the world's energy requirement. Scientists have clearly shown that fossil fuel is the main culprit for the adverse climatic changes the Earth is facing today. Therefore, moving towards renewable energy sources and stopping fossil fuel is of high priority to achieve the planetary climate security. In keeping with the Green Initiative, the Faculty of Medicine is planning to implement a clean energy project harnessing solar power. The main objective of this webinar today is to create awareness among the members of the academic and non-academic staff and the undergraduates regarding sustainable energy. We have 3 eminent speakers this evening, experts on the subject, to address all of you through this interactive virtual platform. We regret to inform that the representative from IRENA will be unable to join due to unavoidable circumstances. To begin the proceedings, I graciously invite Professor Janaki Heva Vasanthi, Dean, Faculty of Medicine, University of Kelaniya, Cadre Chair and Senior Professor of the Department of Pathology, to make the welcome address. Over to you, Madam.
Thank you, Netmi. Good evening, everybody, especially the students and our special guests tonight, including Mr. Budyat Thauda, who is the CEO of Ceylon Innovent, and Mr. Ranjit Sepala, the Chairman, Sustainable Energy Authority, and Mr. Vidura Ralapanava, the Executive Vice President of the Sustainable Use of Renewable Energy. So thank you very much to our special guests for joining us today to share with us your expertise and experiences, which is very important. Thank you so much for taking time off your busy schedules. Now, I must really congratulate and appreciate the efforts of our Green Society, Green Practices Committee, because they have been very, very busy and very active over the last couple of months, getting involved in various projects. And the recent project that they are involved in is a joint effort with the Innovent Private Limited in trying to rent out our roofs for the generation of solar power. Now, I must at the outset admit that I'm not a great environmental person or a conservationist, but even I have realized the importance and become very aware of the changes that are taking place in our environment, especially with regard to climate change. During our lifetime, that shows how old I am. We will see that the average temperature has gone up, the weather patterns have changed, and this has really shaken me. That is why I think I have begun to realize the importance of making our younger generation aware, conscious, and make them work towards better environmental conservation energy conservation being one of them. I know we cannot all be Greta Thunbergs and work actively towards changing the world, but in our little way, we can do certain things which will make life better, not only for us, but for the future generations. And it's doubly important in a faculty like the medical faculty, where we will be producing the leaders of tomorrow, people who will have some say in society, people who will be looked up to and respected, who can take this message out into the rest of the society, and also make other people conscious and aware of how important it is to conserve not only energy, but all aspects of the environment. So it is with that view that I am so happy to participate in events like this, because I feel it is, we are building up a population of young people who will be conscious of conserving the energy, not only energy, but the entire environment. So that has been our objective at the Faculty of Medicine, in keeping with the overall objective of the university to establish a green university. So I will not talk at length because there are a lot of experts on this panel who will share their ideas with you. And let me thank all those of you who have joined us. I'm sure we will learn a lot and get new ideas, new innovations from the experts who are here today. So thank you, Netmi, and thank you to the Green Practices Committee for inviting me. So we'll go on with the rest of the program. I'm sure there are a lot of interesting things we can hear and learn. Thank you once again.
Thank you, Madam. I would also like to mention that the Q&A session will be held at the end of the 3 speeches. And if you have any questions, I request you very kindly to submit your questions in the chat box, along with the speaker you wish to address. Moving on to the speech session, I most cordially invite the first speaker of the day, His Excellency, Ambassador Buddhi K. Atauda, former Consul General and Ambassador to Germany, the Netherlands, France, Andorra, Kingdom of Monaco, Portugal, and Spain, and the Honorary Advisor to the State Minister of Solar, Wind, and Hydropower Generation Projects Development, to deliver his speech on global trends and the background information for carbon neutrality. Sir, the platform is yours.
Thank you, Netmi. That's a nice introduction. Thank you so much for the thank you so much for the nice words. Professor Heba Vasanthi, distinguished faculty, Mr. Ranjit Sepala, the Chairman of Sustainable Energy Authority, Dr. Vidura Ralapanawa, and the Green Practices Committee, and most importantly, the students, the future of our country, future of our world. You know, it's my pleasure to be with you today to share some of my thoughts on this timely topic, energy conservation and carbon neutrality. So what I would do in my next few minutes, let me talk about the scientifically where things are and how we got here, and the major polluting factors, why our actions matter and what we should do. And of course, we should talk about Paris Climate Treaty and the opportunities come with it, and our Sri Lanka's agenda, what should be, and I'll share a few things about my current company that I'm working with. So if you look at the last 650,000 years, the CO2 carbon, CO2 has the range, the ppm has been around, range is a little bit over, let's say 180 to 200, let's say 300. This is the range we have had this entire last 650,000 years. And in the last few years, it has, you can see at the end of the graph here, how fast it has gone up. And in the, from 1900, like with this industrial revolution, this started taking off rapidly, but especially the last 50 years or so, it's really going up quite rapidly. So if you go to the next slide, you can see in recent years, now it has gone up to about 410, and it's keep going up and up and up. So, so this industrial revolution and use of fossil fuel has really caused some of these problems. The highest recorded CO2 has been in 2020, about 410 ppm at that time. Since then, we had this corona episode, and the industrial base went down a little bit. So with this rapid CO2 coming into the atmosphere, as you know, the global warming, rapid weather changes, suddenly you have, you know, normally what you can have in 1 year, the rain can happen in like 3 days. So you can see rapid floods and severe damages. And also our ecosystem is damaged and changed. And as you know, 1/3 of our precious species are going to be missing, going to extinguish very soon. Then with that kind of issues, if you look at some of the major factors, if you look at energy and transport, that is 50% of the emission, damaging the environment. So that's why while I was ambassador, I wanted to see what I want to do after I finish my term. So I decided to do something that makes the world a cleaner place while advocating renewable energy. So that's how I started Ceylon Innovate. So as responsible citizens, all of you also should look at some of these numbers. Fashion industry, food retail, that means fast food mainly, I think, and energy and transport. So if we can travel in electric vehicles, if we can have renewable energy for our energy source, energy production, and wind, air, and water, we can have more energy than what we could use for our own needs. So therefore, if you ask an engineer with expertise in coal power, obviously that guy mindset is different. But this reminds me of like this, you know, a few years ago, you had dial phone, you know, phones that you can dial. You dial 9, you wait, then it comes back, then you dial 2, like that. So that kind of a telephone to a touchscreen phone like this, where you don't have to wait for the dial tone. So it's a mindset change where we used to get a letter from a member of the parliament to go and ask for SLT for a telephone line. Now so the people have 2 mobile phones sometimes. So now you don't need a permit from a politician or anything. So this is the same thing going to happen to old energy producers like the coal power and this big pollutant. There is no place for them with the efficient new power plants with renewable energy coming up so fast. And I remember when I was talking to the King of Netherlands, we were talking about renewable energy. he said, the renewable energy is the way to go, but we should bring this technology to such a cheaper level where people can buy these things and without any subsidies. So that has happened already in the last few years. One of the main leaders in this sector is Germany. What Germany did was, even when the technology was very expensive, they decided to subsidize and gave solar power companies and many other companies extra money so they could be in business. Then not only Germany, a few other many countries did that. Now China has become the biggest manufacturer for some of this equipment and technologies, and the whole world is moving there. We are in the transition time, and while we are going through this transition, and while we see this needs, and the world leaders got together in Paris and agreed to reduce the global CO2 emission level. From 1990 level, 40%, or by 2030, they want to reach a certain level of thresholds, and limiting the average global temperature increase to less than 2 degrees, and enhance the resilience and adaptation of the climate impact, and also align financing support for some of these changes, or the rapid adaptation to these new technologies, so that we could reduce this CO2 emissions. So this is not a questioning about this renewable energy anymore, or reducing CO2. It's a race, how we can implement these things. And if you look at from the opportunity point of view, this is a great opportunity. The world is flat again. Nobody has extra expertise, and whoever going to adapt to these new technologies and create new technologies, going to be the provider of technologies to the world. So therefore, that is why Germany and some countries start building the technologies, because they can provide that technology to the whole world. So Sri Lanka also, either we can be a leading country as an opportunity, because as a Sri Lanka country in the located close to the equator, we could have renewable energy for our energy, and for our transport, we could easily have electric vehicles, and also we can adjust our agriculture to fit into the modern society. So all these things have opportunities. Either we can become, even our universities can adapt new programs for technology. So therefore, our students will be the leading engineers around the world if we lead this. Or we can be lagging and waiting for everyone to do things, and then we adapt and we become a consumer for these other big companies. So this is the question, and I'm sure our chairman of the Sustainable Energy Authority has great ideas, and they have great plans. So I can wait to hear some of this agenda and plans we have. And if you look at Germany's, can you go back to the previous slide? Previous one. Yeah. So if you look at Germany and China, where they are now, they don't even talk about gigawatts now. You know, megawatts. They are on gigawatts. So they have for solar power 253 gigawatts in China, 41 gigawatts in Germany, solar. They have, you know, these North European countries, they barely have sun, and they still have working on solar. In fact, they have more solar than wind if you look at it. So one would expect wind would be, solar would be less. But we, being Sri Lanka, being a tropical island and having so many sun shining days, I think it's no-brainer. We must adapt, and that's why this whole our entire country is slowly adapting to renewable energy technologies and legal framework to have these things. And if you look at the Sri Lanka's commitment to the global treaties and agreements, we should do a little bit more to at least keep up with the world. I think we can go a little bit more and adapt. We must think of electric mobility or zero emission mobility, because we are a little island. We don't have a large country like China or India or USA or Europe, where you can, your countries have borders and then you still keep driving for thousands of kilometers. I think if we can adapt some of these practices, I think we can make a great difference. So that is why the Green Practice Committee, in the Faculty of Medicine in University of Kelaniya, I am so impressed and I was so touched what they have done and how they are carrying the Sri Lanka's agenda. So I would stand with you and want to support you, and anything I can and do for you. So I'm truly grateful for the invaluable initiatives Faculty of Medicine has adopted. So you have taken your responsibility and converted that into action. Thereby, you seek to invest in the future generations, inculcate in them a call of duty to adopt sustainable means of living. So I think with that kind of a spirit, and when I met your team, and I was quite touched and impressed. And if there's anything Ceylon Innovent can do to make your campus green, and we want to be there for you, and we want to be a catalyst for the renewable energy in the South Asian region. And we are already in about 20 countries. Our group has over 2,400 megawatts already in renewable energy. So we, especially in Africa and Europe, and I hope to adapt and do the same thing in the South Asian region. And we want to start from Sri Lanka and then move to the other countries in the neighborhood. So that is kind of my little thoughts for you, why I feel passionate about doing something great for our little planet. It's getting destroyed day by day. You can feel this impact. And so I'm happy to be available for the question and answer session later. And back to you. Thank you for your time and this opportunity.
Thank you, sir. Now, I most cordially invite Mr. Ranjit Sepala, Chairman of the Sri Lanka Sustainable Energy Authority, to deliver his speech on green concepts and renewable energy. Over to you, sir.
Sorry. Thank you very much, Netumi. And I would, first of all, I would thank for the Professor Hewanti and the team who invited me to the this session, and the thanks for the Mr. Buddhi. And actually, I am now very happy because now one more speaker is here. Actually, before start my session, you all are covered, most of them. So. Now I am happy because Vidura, Dr. Vidura is behind me, so then I am very happy. Before I can tell something. Okay, thank you very much for you all. And the what we are going to talk. Shall I share my screen, please? Can you see this, my screen, please? Hello.
Not yet.
Can you give the permission to do that, please?
You have been made the co-host, Mr. Seppan.
So then,
Just put share screen.
it's not coming. Sorry. Okay, can you see my screen, please?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Actually, my topic will be the green concepts and renewable energy. But why in this picture, I got it from the internet, what we should do, I mean, according to Mr. Buddhi, actually, we should do these things. What we should do, we have to shut off all the fossil at the end. And the government also need to do this. Why we want to do, I mean, this kind of activity without considering others? As we all know, every year we are spending more than 4 billion USDs foreign reserves, our foreign reserve to the other countries to import the whether it is coal or whether it is diesel or some other fossil fuel. How we balance this energy? So that is the next step before we shut down the whatever the fossil fuel run generator or the power station. So then we have to bring the renewable energy. So not only that, we bringing renewable energy and the shutting off the running fossil fuel generator is not the solution. We have to develop some concepts. Why we need the concepts or the rules and regulation? Without rules and regulation, I think we can't go forward. So we have to build at least some concepts. So that's why we are thinking about the green concept according to, I mean, your society proposed me. So then my focus mainly for the green concept and renewable energy development in Sri Lanka. Before I start, I will just mention my institute, and actually I'm the chairman to Sustainable Energy Authority, and we have a mandate to develop the renewable energy resources which require to fulfill the government aims. As you all know, the government decided to go to 70% renewable energy by 2030, and at the 2050, all energy should be carbon neutral. So it is a very huge target, and I will at the end I will show you that because we have enough resources to achieve that kind of targets, but we have issues or we have a problem. But these are not the, I mean, those are not the permanent, but we can manage. Sorry, yeah. Before I start, I will go to my second screen. What are the green concepts? When I think these concepts you already know and you already discussed. I mean, within this, I mean, the few minutes also you discussed green energy. Yes, we are doing green transport. I think e-mobility, and not only that. When we talk about the green transport, it is not only transporting. I mean, the converting all the you know, the vehicles to the electricity, but the managing pattern also to be a green, and the time it should be a I mean, the bind with the or the integrate with the time schedules. And the green building. Green building mean now I'm in now right now I am in a green building. So that's why I'm more comfortable than sitting like this. So that means at the end you have to build a building with the energy efficiency. Though people not think at the beginning when they are building house, but at the end, throughout the period, they have to spend huge amount of money for the electricity, for the heating, or sometimes cooling, and sometimes heating as well. So the green concept also required for the green building. And other things, agriculture and forest. Yes, when we are going to develop the renewable energy or fossil fuel, we are damaging someone can say we are damaging the agriculture and the forest. But any development, you have to sacrifice. But we have to select what is the least sacrifice for each project. So we have to protect the forest and the agriculture as well. Someone can say when you are installing the solar panel in the ground mounted basis, they will they lose the agriculture forest, our agriculture land. No, now the technology is there, so you can use the both agriculture plus solar power as well. And the water, so that one also green water we require, so we have to protect the water system and the waste management like that. I don't want to go each and everything, but the green society or your committee, they know well. But at the green economy mean in overall, we can get the huge, the market. We can attract the huge market to our country by introducing a green economy. That means including with this every concept. So then it is our duty to think about the green concept, and I have to appreciate your committee as well. And it's not more. Yeah. So now we talk about when we are talking about our health system. So these details you know very well than me. When we get about the cancer, I think according to my statistics, I found, I think if it is incorrect, so then you can correct me, and more than 64 patients found daily, and death almost 32. Total patients more than 56,000. Undefined, we don't know. And the future also we don't know if we run like this. But I know that half of things will not be due to the environmental issues, but due to some other inherent, factors. When we talk about diabetics, that one also same. We are every year we are losing 12,400, and the corona and heart disease, we are losing 27,000 people every year. So yearly, because of these three events, we are losing almost 151,000 people yearly. So that means daily 450. That means now we are worrying about the the death figures of the corona, but we are losing every day 450 people without knowing. Though we can stop, avoid, but we are losing this much of the human from our country. So then we have to think again how we go with the green concept. Yes, outcome of green. Now I think you all described about that. So at the end, we can create the positive impact of the environment by going for the green. I think Mr. Buddhi, he clearly showed his graph and what happened before the many years, but it is changing. It is true, right? So then, however, it is automatically adjusted through the by nature. but we change the nature. Now we have to think some other way. And reduce the harm that already be done. So that one also we can recorrect. We can recorrect it again by using the renewable energy or the energy conservation and use the efficient machines and improve the social well-being, minimize the carbon emission. I think I think next speaker will talk about the carbon emission and the soil degradation. We know that without without the chemical, the fertilizer, now we are in a trouble. The soil already degraded. So then we have to bring back to the normal situation. I think 50, 60 years before. So then we have to go for the green if we need to do that. And yes, of course, natural resources are depletion, but we have to recover those things under these concepts. Action for green. Actually, now I'm not going through this, and you know everything, and some of them I will use that. I know that many people are not utilizing sunlight, but we can. So then we have to focus how we go for the green. Yes, use the sunlight throughout the day. I think we know that 12 hours we can get the sunlight, 365 days. Yes, we have to go for the green. So then we have to practice those things to achieve or the save the world or save the environment. Reduce energy consumption and the energy saving are actually our institutes highly focusing for these activities, and we are giving the advice to use the updated equipment. Don't depend on the now. We know that now we are already make a program to remove the old fridge. We know that this old fridge consuming huge amount of energy. But if you bring a new the refrigerator, you can save energy and you can pay the bill by reducing the use of energy from the energy bill. So now we within a few within a month, now we are going to launch a program to replace your old fridge by a new fridge, but without any burden to your normal day-to-day incoming activities. Green habit. Why I mentioned that, that one also issue. Now, it is attitude and the cultural issues. Now, when I go to the any events in the hotel, I'm asking first from the staff how much food. Even when it's a wedding or some other event, I'm asking how much food you are wasting. They are telling that huge amount of foods are wasting. Why? When we go to the wedding, some people, they are, putting whatever things in the display or the open for the food, they are getting everything. But finally, they can't eat all. We can eat only few. But but at the end, so they can't eat, and they are, throw out all the, the rest of the things. So that means that's the reason, that's the reason we have to pay huge amount of money for each plate. So that means we have to change our habit. So I think, but I will not include it for the green concept, but we have to practice that. That is our agenda. The reach 70% renewable energy and the maximize the energy efficiency and conservation, and at the end, now we want to make the create low carbon society, as I mentioned. Achieve the neutral carbon neutral in 2050. Energy efficiency mean we are every time thinking that it's the first fuel. No need anything. Without any, effort, we can switch off the light. So that means it's the first fuel. And the last resort is the renewable energy. So that means we know that if there is no any fossil fuel, whether we like it or not, we have to go for the renewable energy. Yeah, energy conservation activities. Actually, I'm not going through this all the things. If you like, I can share this my screen later. And the we started the many programs. So that means we are publishing the energy consumption benchmark. So that means it is by mandatory. They can't use unnecessary energy for their purposes. Even it may be in the supermarket, it may be in some places or industry. Now we are make the regulator for the benchmarking of the energy used. And we are, the training the energy managers and energy auditors to follow or the audit the energy usage. And not only for the, it is not, even though it is mandatory, but it can get the more benefit for the energy users like that. Considering the time things, I will pass thing. And this is the, according to the government decision, we decided to arrange a plan how we achieve the renewable energy by 2030. Now, we are responsible for the all this non-renewable, without major hydro. So Sustainable Energy Authority responsible for development of the mini hydro, solar, and solar ground mounted, and the wind. So these are the the major resources Sustainable Energy Authorities focusing or the getting action to develop. So we are planning to develop almost 9,000 the 9,000 megawatt of renewable energy by 2030. So that means we are planning to go for the floating solar and the wind offshore and the wave energy and the geothermal energy as well. Why we are going for the floating solar? Introducing a floating solar, we can reduce the water evaporation from the reservoirs, and we can stop the algae development of the water bodies. And so then it may further it may help to the breeding activities in the fishing, the farming or the life. So then this is our plan, and we already prepare and arrange it. But it is not, even though we make this plan, it is not strictly depend on each resources, but we can serve as per the requirement of the utility or the Ceylon Electricity Board. If they say, now we already identified where this the resources available and when we can give it. According to that, we make this plan. And this is the graph after we the plot by converting the the previous one is the energy, the capacity, and this is the map for the energy generation, the energy, how much energy we can generate from the renewable energy. Now here you can see that by renewable energy we can go for the more than 20,000 gigawatt hours at the 2030. I think you can understand what is the mean gigawatt hours and the megawatt. If you need, I will explain further, right? So if we go to the green concept, so we have to go to the energy, the renewable energy, and day by day, we have to go for the low carbon or the low carbon society. For that one, we have to educate the people and the change the style, and the consumption pattern should be changed, and the production, transport, especially the technology. So then we have to acquire the new technology to the country, and a single person or the one committee or the one city can't do that. Everyone should work together to bring this, the and get together to fulfill this, I mean the target, then only we can give to the our next generation to enjoy with the renewable energy. Now, as we all know, we are at the end of the fossil fuel, I mean the liquid fuel, but in future we may not in a position to harness the coal power, coal, I mean the energy as well. So then I will go through the what are the, this is why I put it this presentation. People are saying 70% RE is not reality. So then I did this presentation recently for the honor ministers, and I show that these are the issues what the utilities are facing. Yes, we can give the solution, but since this is technical, I will not go through this. But anyone can say it is only for RE. Yes, total energy consumption can't fulfill the renewable energy. That means renewable energy is not enough. So that's why I also mentioned it is not enough and it is not possible. But adding some more things, some more new things, we can balance the requirement and the supply, the demand and supply. Demand and supply should be equal, in the power system. If the more demand and the no supply, it will not be stable. And same way, more supply, no demand, that one also not stable. So like that, technology should be integrated, and the new methodology should be integrated, and some new business model also integrate to achieve the renewable and to fulfill the power system or maintain the stability of the power system. Yeah, at the end we have to go for the entire, 100% renewable energy. After before 2050. So these are the calculation and what are the energy requirement I mentioned. I think you notice that in my graph it says more than 21,000, but our requirement is 60,000 gigawatt, and we have enough for the solar and the wind potential and the offshore wind. We have enough, more than, I think you can see that overall potential in the offshore wind 90,000 megawatts, but our requirement is in 2030 our requirement is more than 10-15, but we have enough for the many years. We have enough resources within the country. So that means you can see that how we they select the land and without any disturbance to the the forest, or the we remove all the buffer zones and the reservation, and like that we select only the minimum without harming to the environment. We select the resources and the without harming to the well-being of the the people and the like that. So this is the map I want to show you, that our offshore wind, how much you can see that, right? These two area. Now we are focusing and to develop the offshore wind in future. So I will flip this and see, these are our plan and how we can get the. We already make the plan from where and how we can get, how we are getting the renewable energy to the system. So then we already prepare the plan, and we are prepared how we keep the ready those the resources. So then utility or the Ceylon Electricity Board, they can select and they can the connect to the system, and by the combining or the discussion with the CEB, so then we can proceed. Now we have enough resources than the the what I plan into the my previous map. So that mean this is the the forecast day at 2030. How is our and the energy load pattern and the demand pattern by 2030. So we are trying to switch to the like this green energy and the smart grid and the flexible grid and the prosumers. Prosumers mean every house, they can generate they can sell the energy and they can use the energy like that. Prosumers, production and consumers. So then the word will come prosumers. So they can, and these are the benefits attained by renewable energy. Every day, I'm not going to know all the things considering the time you gave me. And definitely what I focus is we can develop local based manufacturing and the carbon free generation, and they attract more investment to the country, huge job market, and the future there are more resources available, hydrogen economy, and we have to touch, and we are discussing right now for the future, and then become a developed country. As we know that, as we all know, we are still developing country for many years. But if we can go for the 70 by RE, definitely we can achieve our country as a developed country. So what we need, the willpower, clear policy, commitment from everybody, and the proper methodology, as I mentioned. So then definitely we can achieve this carbon-free world and 70% RE by reality. That's all. Thank you very much for giving this time. Actually, it is my, first of all, it is my honor to you all to give this time. And if you need any help, actually you can work with our authority. We need people like you, and you can get things from us, and we can get same way from you as well. So please join with us. We will support you. And by if you required finance way, yes, that one also we can possible up to some level, and we can have a the MOU with your university, and we can work together. So we will, let us join. We will protect the environment. We will develop the renewable energy, and we change the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Before we move on, I'd like to request you all to privately message your questions to the two participants named Ask Your Questions in the participants list. Thank you. And now, to deliver the final speech for the day, I humbly invite Mr. Vidura Ralapanavu, Executive Vice President of Sustainability and Innovation at the EPIC Technology Group, to deliver his speech on climate change. Over to you, sir.
Hello, good evening to everyone. Let me just share the screen. Can you see my screen?
No, not yet.
Mrs. Sepala, can you stop sharing your screen, please?
That's what I'm trying. Give me a second.
We still see Mr. Sepala's screen.
Okay.
All right. So good evening, everyone. I know we are a little bit running a little bit behind time, so let me do this fast. I think in the beginning, Ambassador Ataud spoke about climate a little bit, and I want to spend the 15 minutes talking a little bit more about the climate emergency and what that actually means for us. Because as much as we speak about green concepts and they are very important, we need to also have an understanding on what is the scale of the problem, because how we respond to the situation is relative to the scale of the problem. So, I mean, all of you are medical students, so I'll give you a very crude medical analogy. So if you are a diabetes, if you're treating a diabetes patient, you have to know what stage, or if you're treating a cancer patient, you have to know what stage the sickness is, because your response in early stage detection and late stage detection is completely different. So when we talk about green concepts, it's important to ask how bad the situation is and how fast and what kind of action is needed. Um, so Ambassador Atauda showed 650,000 carbon dioxide levels. Actually, it goes, we can trace it back to 800,000 years. And this is what it looks like now compared to 800,000 years. Now, if you think about the whole human civilization actually occurred in less than 10,000 years, which is this tiny, tiny piece over here where my cursor is. Now, we say that human civilization actually occurred in a period of relative climate stability. And this stability has no longer there. So the world that we are seeing now is not even remotely similar to the world that the whole human civilization evolved. So that's one of the key problems. And because climate system, the problems we are seeing aren't necessarily related to, there's a lag between what occurs and the impact. So we haven't seen the worst part of the current carbon dioxide levels, which is about 416 parts per million. So we haven't seen anything remotely close to the impact of this. Has the planet Earth existed where we had more carbon dioxide than 415? Yes. But those periods, we had a massive sea level increase compared to now. So the habitable land mass of the world was much lower than what it is. Right now, there's a problem when you think about most of human civilization now are actually in coastal cities. So this shows how the temperature has changed from 1990 to 2020. These are called stripes. So each stripe represents a particular year and how much warmer or colder has it been over a longer term average. The top set of slides shows the global and the bottom set is Sri Lanka. And you can actually see the temperature extremes start much earlier in Sri Lanka than the global average. And it continues to become a problem. The 10 hottest years in the recorded history, and by recorded history, we talk about 160 years. Even in Sri Lanka, we have that type of a recorded history of temperature. The top 5 are 2015, 16, 17, 18, and 19. Okay. So it just shows you how bad the situation is. And the right-hand side shows how decadally temperature has increased, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000. And if you look at the 2001, you can actually see the northern hemisphere is heating very fast, as well as the West Antarctic ice sheet. Now, these are very significant because, for example, complete melting of the West Antarctic ice sheet, this is the black part here, will increase the sea level by 6 meters. The complete melting of Greenland will also increase the sea level by 6 meters. So there's combined 12 meters worth of sea level rise packed in there. Some scientists believe that this is already unreversible. So this chart only shows up to 2019, 2020 tied for the warmest year. So it actually tied with 2016, right? So you can see the trend clearly. 4 pictures of random in mid 2019. This 42.65 was in Germany. On the right hand side, you see this one of the largest ice breaks to break away from Antarctica. There were multiple floods, and the fire that you see in 2019 July is a fire in Siberia, which is not normal to have fires in that part of the world. Okay. This is from 2020. This is the famous San Francisco Golden Gate Bridge. The red color that you have is the light coming during the night from forest fires that was burning all over California. And it's just covered in not smoke, but in smoke. Okay. This is 2021. You can see a massive heat wave that went in partly on the northwest the Pacific Northwest of US. The most of the country was, very, very, we had a very high temperature extreme. This same situation happened in Siberia. Also, you can see at the end. These temperatures are not normal. This 42 plus temperatures are not seen in British Columbia or Alaska. Okay, and definitely not in the Arctic Circle. So this is a very unusual situation, and it has huge implications to the climate. So this is another chart that you see. This is the Siberian side. This is the Russian side of Arctic. Again, 180 degrees is over 42 Celsius. Now, the issue is Paris Agreement, as Ambassador Ataud mentioned. Paris Agreement has actually two key targets, right? One is a temperature target, and the temperature target says that we need to either meet the absolute target is 2 degrees Celsius compared with pre-industrial era as the absolute target, and then there's an aspirational target of 1.5 degrees, right? 1.5 degrees is what small island nations actually asked for from UN in 2009 in Copenhagen, but which was rejected by the rich countries, especially Europe, saying that their economy will not be able to handle it. But the problem is, under 2 degree scenario, a lot of countries such as Maldives, our neighbor, and a lot of islands in the Pacific will not exist. They will be completely underwater, right? At the current trajectory, the 1.5 Celsius target doesn't seem to be within our reach. Okay, so as much as we talk about renewable energy, how fast we are adopting renewable energy, how fast are we reducing our emissions is as important as getting there. Okay, if you get it too late, there's no point in getting there because our carbon emissions will be too high and we will not be able to reverse. As medical practitioners, you would know that if the outside temperature crosses 40 degrees, your body's ability to cool itself completely breaks down and you will die from heat exhaustion, right? Now, this is already happening in parts of the world, and people who are impacted mostly are the poor people who are not able to get into air-conditioned comfort to keep their bodies colder. But what happens also is that most animals in the planet also don't have air conditioning facilities. They die. So the heat wave that we spoke about in the US, they estimate within a week or 2 weeks period, 2 billion animals, not million, billion, 2 billion animals died out of that one single heat wave. Now, these impacts we are already seeing when the temperature increase is about 1.2 degrees. We haven't reached 1.5 or 2 degrees yet. Okay, 1.5 and 2 degrees are honestly not possible to survive. You would have seen this. This is floods in Germany, where and same thing happened in China, where they just got about 25 inches, more than 2 feet of water within 24 hours. Okay, there is very little infrastructure in the world that can withstand that level of continuous rainfall. This is a picture of North Pole. This small marker in the center is where it marks the North Pole location. This is what it looks like in June every year, where the North Pole is actually a lake on top of the Arctic ice. That's what the warming is doing. You can see on the left-hand side the Arctic sea ice. The red mark is an abnormal situation we had in 2012, which is the recorded loss. We are getting close to hitting that number this year. And you can see the averages are much higher than this. And what happens is that when sea ice disappears, sun's energy does not get reflected back into the sky, and it gets absorbed to the water, and which basically fast tracks the warming. So if the Arctic sea ice disappears in the summer, which is likely to happen in the next 20 to 30 years, this will be equal to doubling our carbon dioxide amount because it just heats up further. what's happening now. This is Greenland. As you can see from the year 2013 to 2020, this massive part of the iceberg, the lip of the iceberg broke away. This is last week. Enough ice melted on a single day to cover Florida 2 inches of water. This is a project called the United States Geographical Service, which basically takes pictures of old mountains with glaciers and recreates the same picture. And you can see the ice completely has disappeared. Again, ice is disappeared. And this is important because this leads to sea level rise, right? So some scientists believe we cannot reverse Greenland ice sheet melting, okay? Why is that? Because ice sheets have a large inertia. When you talk about ice sheet dynamics, you talk about them in centuries. So while it's possible to reverse the melting, it will melt for years more until we really reverse our warming, and it'll probably melt for about 200 to 300 years before we can reverse it. And people are already losing their livelihoods. This island, Kiribati, is a Pacific island. Their island went underwater because of sea level rise and tides, and they are now had to buy land in Fiji and move. This shows some of the trajectories of sea level under 4 degrees warming scenario, which is quite possible in the current trends. It will see a minimum of 2-meter rise by 2100. Even under a 2-degree scenario, they expect about 2 feet high sea level by 2100. Just to put this into perspective, if we have 2 feet high sea level rise, that will put the complete port city underwater. Here are the projections for Sri Lanka, 2-meter height and 8.9-meter height. What will be underwater, okay? This is a typical coral reef, picture of the Great Barrier Reef. This is what it looked like after 2016-17 marine heat wave that destroyed quite a lot of the corals. If you talk about the Great Barrier Reef, there are 3 parts. Top part lost about 2/3 of the corals, middle part lost about 50%, and the bottom part lost about 1/3. There were 3 global coral bleaching events that is in the recorded history. First one was 96 to 97, which destroyed most of the southern corals in Sri Lanka. That's why we don't have good coral reefs in Hikkadu, where used to be a real nice coral reef, or even Mathura area. The second one was in 2010, which is where the bar reef in Putlam died, got bleached, and it's very pathetic stage now. And then there was the one in 2017, which impacted the Great Barrier Reef. And what's driving this? Primarily, the massive increase is global ocean heat content. The cyclones are getting stronger. This will tell you where it is. I just want to focus on the, this is a UN report regarding 1.5 degrees. This is warm water corals. And you can see under 1.5 scenario and 2-degree scenario, this is completely in purple range. The chances of coral reefs surviving a 2-degree scenario is less than 1%. Chances of coral reefs surviving a 1.5 degree scenario is 3%. So this is what it is. Under 1.5 C, 9 out of 10 coral reefs at risk of severe degradation. At 2 degrees, all coral reefs are gone. At 3 degrees, all marine ecosystems are likely to collapse. 4 degrees, half of all plant and animal species face extinction. Now, why is coral reef important? 60% of all marine species live part of their life in a coral reef. Okay, so the rapid destruction of marine ecosystems are inevitable when the coral reefs disappear. So this brings us back to a question: what is the target that we are looking at? Business as usual will take us 6 degrees or more. 4 degrees is a quite likely scenario. 1.5 degree is aspirational target for Paris, but we know, looking at what things are now, even the 1.5 degrees is not a viable position for us to be, because we cannot survive the 1 degree world. We cannot definitely survive 1.5 degree. The realistic, the practical target, because all of these are political targets, the practical target is actually 350 parts per million CO2. So from current 416, we need to rapidly reduce. Okay, but all the Paris Agreement does is to reduce the rate of increase of carbon dioxide. It's not to reduce the rate of increase. And we are failing in that because the rate of increase is continuing to go up even now. Two recent cyclones, and you can see how many people impacted. The next one comes, it will be even more. We are highly vulnerable to climate change. Because of our unique rainfall patterns, will destroy our ecological niche, which made us a biodiversity hotspot. Our marine habitats are under extreme threat, and we are also highly vulnerable for sea level combined with storm surges. So sea level may rise a little bit, but when you combine it with the storm surge, there's a lot more damage. These are projections that are made by the Meteorological Department of Sri Lanka under RCP 4.5. This is a 4-degree scenario. RCP 8.5, the bottom, is the 8-degree scenario. And you can see the temperature is not going to be bearable, and there's going to be severe droughts in the northeast monsoon. Three main injustices. Today's adults to young people, we created the problem, you have to deal with it. People in the developed countries created the problem. People like us who are in the developing countries have to deal with it. But the third one, humans created it and other species are likely going to be wiped out. Professor mentioned about Greta Thunberg, that we can't all be Greta Thunbergs, but the problem is that not enough of us are Greta Thunbergs. Okay, because we've just parked it over to her. Okay, you solve the problem and we will go do our own thing. It's not working. So this right-hand side chart shows where the current business as usual goes and how fast our reduction has to be to get to 1.5. And every year we don't do this, it becomes even more difficult. Now we are here, not here. So we have to reduce even faster, and it's not very, very easy to do so. People talk about adaptation. It's not possible. The top picture is a giant seawall that is set up by Netherlands, very sophisticated solution. It's not possible for Sri Lanka to do things like this. So we will go under. Okay, so adaptation is a very unequal thing. Poor countries will suffer. This is 2017 floods. How can we think about development? Because all the money that we assign for development will be spent to recover from each natural disaster as it comes our way. So this is not a pleasant presentation, but this is where things are. You guys are doctors. Sometimes you have to tell the patient what the problem is, even if the problem is terminal. Okay. So that's what I have to share with you. I know things are bleak, but we cannot attend to this problem being in denial or not being aware of the scale of the problem. So the first piece is we need to be aware, and we need to work double, treble, 10 times harder than what we are already doing. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Now, the webinar is open for discussion. The first set of questions will be addressed to Ambassador Butti K. Athauda. Sir, your first question is, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, is there a significant decrease in the emission of carbon dioxide, or is it just a slight one?
Right. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Thank you for the question. If you look at the real world activities, like the transport sector, industries, factories, they all have come down. Of course, they were not running at full capacity. Because of that, I would say in the transportation sector, there was a 50% less activities, and industry, manufacturing and so on, 35% less activities. And overall, they say, but some credible sources, so about 7% reduction on CO2 emission due to COVID. But in the long run, what's going on here is around the world is, this is not drop in the bucket. But so those are the numbers that I have. So it's quite, I mean, even commerce and industry sector, there are very few ships coming to Sri Lanka now. Because of that, I know one tea exporter was telling me to import the cartons for them. One container they used to charge $800 container coming from China to Sri Lanka. Now the container can have a maybe $5,000 charge just to have one container. So you could see how much the world, the things have changed. So when you have less transport, the cost has gone up also. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. There is one more question. What is Sri Lanka's potential to use the ocean surface to generate solar energy, if that is possible?
Right. I think we should ask that also from Mr. Sepal Ranjit also. But from the technical point of view, when the ocean is calm, I think it is easy to, the end of the day, you need some panels. Solar power should fall on, solar light should fall on this panel. So if there's movement or change, it's difficult to have solar in an ocean surface. But there are possibilities when there's calm ocean, when you can build boundaries, and like in the harbors, like the lakes. So floating solar is what we are talking about when you say ocean solar. So
if I may add something, Ambassador.
Yeah.
So it's definitely possible. Singapore is one country. There are a few countries who do that. Maldives is a classic example because they don't have either land or reservoir space who are actually going for floating solar.
So that's the word. So floating solar is a solution, but we have a lot of
reservoir and lagoon spaces. Now the good thing with lagoon spaces is that lagoons don't have the same waves. That
rapid water
and that adds the value.
Yeah. So basically, floating solar is the way to go. You need to spend more money keeping the ocean in a consistent way. That's what Singapore did. And countries like Singapore, they have no choice to do that. And thank you, Dr. Alpanao. Netmi, back to you.
Thank you, sir. The second set of questions will be addressed to Mr. Ranjit Sepala. And I invite my fellow batchmate, Mr. Akhil Santosh, to continue. Over to you, Santosh.
Thank you, Nismi. And Mr. Ranjit Sepala, the first question to you is, what else we can do as a faculty to move furthermore with the green concepts and renewable energy?
Yeah, I think as a faculty, you can do a lot. That's what my answer first. But you can join with us, as I mentioned. So then we can give you what you can do. I mean, basically, if I name some issues, so then you can from your side you can help to us to awareness of the people and the data collection and the the environment and the interfere with the environmental issues like that, so you can engage with us. And further, there are, the energy conservation and improvement when we consider energy efficiency part. Yes, many activities we can do with you. So then you can join with us definitely. I will, my door, I mean, our institute is open for that. Are you specifying any areas or what? I can't hear you. Your mic silent.
We already got a nice answer, sir. And I'm having another question. What are the current limiting factors for solar energy utilization in Sri Lanka?
Yeah, the thing is this, right? Now, say if I, there are few, you know, the few sites. Now, one thing is the developing, you know, the resources, and other thing is how to connect to the system. I mean, how to connect to the system. So now, connecting to the system, we have to fulfill some major things. So then we have to select the source, and we have to clear the source, and we have to give to the developer to do that. So that means for the investment, right? When we are selecting, you know, the resource and clearing up, it is a major. We can say sometimes it is a major issue. I will mention one thing. Now we started to install 100 megawatt in Siamalanduwa. We select a land and we clear the land. Now these lands belong to the you know, the wildlife, and very recently we settled that. Now, you know, many people are, you know, the settle in that area. So then moving of these people, it is an issue. So then like that, you know, some say the government may support, but other parties, you know, the opposition party will oppose that, and the people also go with them, you know. This is very, you know, the human things. So then we have to handle very, the sensitivity. Now, what I decided to do that, I will give the compensation for these people, and we will give the compensation, and if they require, we will give the land, like that, you know. Many things, but it is, we can't say the solution is this, but we have to give the solution on site. And the as the previous question, yes, we have enough, you know, the land for the floating solar, and as Dr. Vidura says, we have enough reservoirs and the lagoons and other things. So then investment is very less, and the interfere with the people also very less, and efficiency is high. So then we have enough, definitely I can say we have enough resources.
Thank you so much, sir. And your answer was so crystal clear to us. And Nithmi, I think it's up to you now.
Thank you, Santosh.
Yeah.
The final set of questions will be addressed to Mr. Vidura Ralapanava. And sir, your first question is, what about mini hydropower, and what is the situation now?
I think this question should go to Mr. Ranjit Sepala.
Yeah, I will answer it.
I think the question should go to Mr. Ranjit Sepala. I was the one who sent the.
It's okay. It's okay. I will answer it. Actually, right now we develop almost 470 mini hydro around the, especially in the central of the country, and we are planning to go for around 700. You know, after that we can't go, because, you know, not like solar and wind, right? It is a very limited, and we can't go further. Maximum we are, you know, the planning getting only 700 megawatts of mini hydro, and since you know, the considering the rain, the situation and the other situation, so we have to follow the environmental issues as well, right? So then we have to manage this very you know, carefully, and but it is limited. That's what I can say. That
are you planning to expand wind power?
Of course, wind power. Actually, as in my presentation, I mentioned that we are mainly focusing wind and solar. Wind and solar. That's only right. We have enough resources in the wind and the solar as well. Wind we have only, and right now we identified in a northern region, and we are trying to. Very recently we found that we can go for the in Anuradhapura and Kapitigola, I mean the Katagadigili area. If we go for the very high with the high wind towers, that means we have to go for 120-meter high, so then we can get the wind from the that area as well. And the in the Mana area, Mana and Puttalam, we have now right now 248 megawatts, and the height will be around 90 meters. But if you go further height, so then we can get more power or more wind power with that wind potential.
Why I asked you that question, Ranjit, was because like in the 80s, I think there was a big thrust towards mini hydropower projects, wasn't it? That time, I think the government was putting a lot into mini hydropower.
Yeah, but now the thing is, we are having only very limited resources now. So now when we can't put the mini hydro everywhere. So then we have to maintain the volume of the water flow and the height. So if there's any huge water flow, yes, we can run with the low head. I think when we get the equation, I think all know that MGH, right? That's the power we can get it, right? So then we can get the more height. Yes, then we can get the more power like that. So it is limited. That's what when we talk about the mini hydro, I can say that maximum we can go further few megawatts. That means totally we are in according to our plan, only 700 megawatts total we can get it from the mini hydro. But large hydro, yes, some projects are underway, but that can also finish after few years.
Thank you.
Are you okay? Thank you.
Let me, there's another question. No? What are the measures?
Yes, madam. The next question is, what are the measures that can be taken towards a carbon neutral faculty?
Yeah, I can say that carbon neutral faculty, if you go for the green concept, which I mentioned, using energy is not the answer, but you have to make other practice as well, right? So then you have to control the surrounding area as well. So then you have to go the planting also, green planting, and definitely you have to reduce the energy consumption, and you have to use the energy efficient, the equipment or the methodologies and the management and the the other practices as well, the habits and the attitudes. Also, you have to practice to bring the carbon neutral in your faculty. Anyway, if we can further think, right? If you consider the air conditioners, those are the equipment which use the huge amount of energy. So then you can do some energy audit like that. So then you can reduce your electricity bill as well. Yes, of course, if you fix the solar, definitely it will give the huge value for the faculty. And the right now I would like to mention that now we are getting the the Indian credit line facility to fix the solar the system for the government institute. I hope your university, I don't know whether, I'm not remember that, whether you request from us, you need the solar the panel to be installed in your faculty. If you ask, we can consider it. Please send a letter and the request, so then we will do a the estimate, and we can when it is activated, we can do that. It's no issue. Got the point?
Yes, thank you, sir. We have one final question as time is running out. And this was addressed to Mr. Vidura Ralapanaka. Sir, your question is, which is the most effective in regard to less carbon emission, using papers or using an iPad?
No, this make a difference. I mean, these are simple, silly things. If you see the scale of the problem, changing from paper to iPad is not going to make much of a difference. So it depends on how the paper is made, and it depends on from what the paper is made. So you cannot simplify this to this level. But the point I am trying to say is that if you see the scale of the problem, changing paper is not going to make a difference, right? When you have a pneumonia, you're not going to drink a Panadol. So I think the point that I'm trying to make is that. So let me answer this very differently. Okay. If you understand the scale of the problem, we have a systemic issue, right? While individual practices has an important part to play, individual practices by itself is not going to determine whether we are going to successfully overcome the problem or not, right? Because you can use an iPad, but you don't have much of a choice in terms of how you charge this iPad because the electricity is coming from the grid. Okay, so I think the bigger issue that we have to focus on is, as much as we change our own behavior, understanding that changing our own individual behavior is a necessary but not sufficient step to this, and figure out how we can be part of changing the larger system. Okay, I hope the message is clear. Because this type of, I wouldn't want to get into this type of simple comparisons because they are not sufficient of a response to the scale of the problem.
So Vidura, what would you tell the younger generation to do that you would like them to transform into little Greta Thunbergers, is it?
I think it's not the younger generation who should do it. It should be done by all of us, because the younger generation don't have a choice. Whether they become Greta Thunberg or not, the world that we are leaving then is not livable. The world that we are living in is also not livable. And younger generation don't have the power to change it. People like us who are, the older generation, who bears a direct responsibility to where things are, we must take the leadership to do that. It is really ironic, we are one of the first generations who is going to leave a world that is worse off to our children. This is not the world. Now, our parents left a world that is better than what they lived to us. We are the generation who's going to leave a world that is worse off to our children. So why am I, so the question is this: it's not about talking to the younger generation, right? The thing that I would tell the younger generation is, I would apologize to them very humbly that we are not able to do more. The question is, what are we telling ourselves and what we are doing ourselves? And I think we have to start there. And we have to ask, is our responses sufficient to the scale of the problem? And my answer to this is, individually and collectively, we have completely failed. Right? This knowledge about climate change has been there from the 60s, from the 70s. It's been in public. Right? We suddenly act as if we found this. No, it's not there. It's been there. Right? So the question really is that what do we do, not what we tell the kids.
But I mean, Vidura, let me add something. But end of the day, unless this parents, us, and the education institutions like the medical school to all these institutions, unless we inspire kids to the next generation to take the responsibility, what's going to happen? It's going to.
So I think, Ambassador, here you and I are going to disagree, because how are we inspiring? Because when we try to inspire them, they see cynicism. Because the question is, what are you doing? Because we hold power. We are trying to tell them, and they don't have that power to change, because the decision making in this country, let's say, as in every other country, is held by our generation.
But,
Right.
the spirit, it's okay to disagree, but end of the day, if we all have to have a spirit to get somewhere, and the spirit, we should have it, we should practice it. That's why all the way from how we drive, whether it's electric car or not, what we eat, and how we use our electricity, like all the measurements that your university is doing, like by using the efficient machines to shutting off the lights when you leave, using solar power. If everyone can do something, that adds up.
That doesn't add up enough. That's the whole point. And let me just answer this in a slightly different way, right? As you know, there are a lot of lawsuits that are going against the fossil fuel companies, going against the Shell, ExxonMobil, all of these companies, right? Now, one thing they found out was that suddenly by around 2013-14 era, there was this whole conversation came about personal carbon footprint and neutralizing personal carbon footprint, as if this is our own responsibility, that the situation we are in is personal choices. Now, this conversation was actually created by Shell. It was created by Shell so that we don't hold them accountable, because they knew the real impact of climate change and actually hid the fact. And they paid the climate misinformation. That is why climate change suddenly become a problem now, whereas scientists have been talking about it for decades, right? So my point on this, Ambassador Taude, is that I am not saying to anybody that their choices don't matter, right? And I'm being very, very clear. It's a necessary but insufficient approach, because the scale of the crisis is far beyond. And if we do not take that in that spirit, in the sense that our generation, we have to take it as partly personal responsibility, as partly a requirement to systems change, right? We don't have a right to tell the younger generation to take it up, because the problem is this. Younger generation, they are by the time they come to a position that they can make these changes, it'll be already too late. We are already too late.
I feel your pain, but end of the day, unless you inspire, unless you know, I mean, obviously you are very passionate about it, but we all should do. But I have given up all what I'm doing, and I started a renewable energy company. That's because I also believe in it. And then this inspiration going to trigger in many more people to take leadership positions, in fact, influence the leadership of the countries. And these are ways to do it, but obviously, end of the day, maybe we are too late, but we got to do, everybody has to do what they can.
So here I agree with you, Ambassador Taude, that everybody has to do, and really hats off to you for your for the work that you are doing. I think as does Mr. Sepal, all of us are doing stuff. Again, I asked this question because there is a narrative being built that this whole idea is that we need to teach younger generation to do this, do this, right? And I am explicitly arguing that this is wrong, because this is, there's this famous Sri Lankan saying, no, vadenu parahata tama sammate pihita sita. It's like Vadibana, right? We have a girl that's
we all have
literally
to do,
burning.
not just the younger generation. That's true.
Right,
That's
right.
for sure.
So again, how do we inspire the younger generation? If you ask me, it's that then we also must become climate activists. There's no other choice. So this is going back to the question that can we afford not to be Greta Thunbergs? So this is the question I put, and that is not, and I'm not directing it to the younger generation. I'm talking about all of us, including you, me, Mrs. Sepala, and Professor, all of us, because unless we exert our collective effort for systems change, not individual change, for systems change is not going to come. Now, Mr. Ambassador Athawade, you know that this whole fight between the utility CB and on renewable energy, right? How few people were there? Right, you know, Minister Disanayake was fighting very hard on our corner, but you can see, you can count, you know, probably 50 people in a country of 22 million, right? That's how
I think Dr. Vidura, now we are going out of the track. I think yeah, considering the time.
I'm gonna close. Sorry about that.
Anyway, thank
Okay.
you, Vidura. That's an interesting perspective you brought to that, because I often think I'm at the end of my career, I'm on my way out, let's leave it to the younger generation kind of. But yes, I think that's a very interesting perspective, because as you said, perhaps we can make more of a difference because we are in positions of more strength than the younger generation are, and they would take a longer time. But in the meantime, let's take them along with us, and that is probably part of our objective.
Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
We might close. No.
Yes, madam.
It's a fairly long day. It's been interesting. We can go on and on, especially when there are people who are so passionate, like Ambassador Athawade and Vidura and Sepal and all of them. But maybe we can meet up another time, get some more ideas to improve the faculty in terms of our green ideas.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity, and I'm looking forward to being there with you and whatever I can do to make this a reality. And let's make more people to think like Vidura, and the world will be better, including the ones.
Yeah, we should get that passion going.
Absolutely, you have to. Everybody has the responsibility to be a part of this, not just the younger generation. I totally agree, especially the leaders.
That's a good point. Yes.
Yeah,
I stand corrected.
Thank you. I enjoyed your discussion, and thanks for this platform. Wish you a very beautiful evening. Good night.
Thank you, sir. And thank you, madam. With that, we conclude the Q&A session. I'm sure that all of you gained some very valuable information regarding the opportunities and the challenges facing energy conservation. And now, to deliver the vote of thanks, I invite Mr. Akhil Santosh. Over to you, Santosh.
Thank you once again, Nithmi. And now we have come to the end of this highly informative webinar on energy conservation. On behalf of the Green Society of University of Kelaniya, I would like to extend my gratitude to Professor Janaki Hewavisunthi, Dean, Faculty of Medicine, University of Kelaniya, for her gracious presence in representing our faculty. My humble thanks goes to distinguished speakers of the day, Ambassador Buddhike Athawade, Mr. Ranjit Sepala, and Vidura Ralpanawa for gracing this occasion despite their busy schedules. I would also like to thank Ceylon Innovans for their generous contribution to this project. And finally, I would like to extend my sincere thanks to the Green Practice Committee and the Center for Sustainability Solutions, the students of the Green Society and the organizing committee of this webinar for their immense dedication in marking this event a great grand success. And now let us all join in attention to the faculty anthem.
Saviyen, ipereni keleni, අපටයි ලැබෙනුයේ රෝදුක් නිවන දහම් එයමයි අපේ දහම් මතුදා අපේ ජීවිතේ රෝදුක් නිවන දහම් එයමයි අපේ දහම් මතුදා අපේ ජීවිතේ
Good night, everyone.
Take care. Stay safe.